So one thing that I've noticed over the last couple of years of doing photography is that we've kind of shifted as a community, right? No longer are we chasing that perfection kind of look, like the super porcelain skin, super sharp portraits. It's all about grain now. We want to be grainy with it. We want to have a little film, a little authenticity to our photos, right? And so in today's video, we're going to do an amazing photo shoot with an amazing model. She's on her way right now. And we're going to talk a little bit about grain. What is it? How we kind of became obsessed with those perfectly sharp portraits a couple years ago. You know, that was kind of like the trend. And how you can use grain in your photos to just enhance them that much more and also just have a good time. We're gonna have a good time, guys, so let's do it. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Once Upon a Time, the greatest channel on YouTube, only second to Peter McKinnon. If you're an OG, you know. But Peter, give me a little follow, man. I've been watching you for a while. Let's make this a relationship. You know, you're Canadian, I'm Mexican. We're kind of like the forbidden lovers of photography, right? But anyways, guys, we are here today in Brooklyn, New York, as always. Great studios around here. And look at this beauty. We're working with two different colors over here. We got two different colors over here. It's gonna be great. But I did want to mention how grain has kind of made a comeback into everything we see. I mean, Instagram is filled with grainy photos, dark, moody. I mean, the whole Kim Kardashian skims, however you feel about Kim Kardashian, it's all about grainy and mood, and it's kind of selling you the vibe of the products, not as much the products themselves, you know? And so I kind of wanted to talk about how we made that shift from that perfection and how you can use it in your own photos to make more vibey stuff. You know, I use grain all the time in most of my photos, so I thought it'd be a great idea to just kind of do a little video about it. So yeah, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is Juan Pablo. I'm a portrait photographer here in New York, and I just, you know, I like to make fun videos. I drop a new video every single Thursday, so if you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and make sure you send a little kiss emoji, because we're friends here. Friends kiss each other in a platonic way, you know? But anyways, let's introduce you to the model and get this video underway. Come over here. You can get closer, don't worry. You can get closer. All right, guys, I'm here today with our amazing model,
Serenity.
And Serenity, tell me a little fun fact about you.
I'm from a town with a population under 20,000.
Jeez, nobody town. So what kind of stuff are we doing today? What's the vibe?
Well, we're doing a little test shoot today, so we have creative freedom, and I think our vibe is a little like vintage, colors, bright.
Grainy.
The pops of color in the background.
Yeah, it's gonna be like moody, colorful. Let's get into it. All right, so what is grain? Grain is sort of like, to keep it really dumbed down for those that don't know. I know you guys are all photographers, you know what grain is, but just in case you're a beginner, grain is kind of those little circles that you see when you get really zoomed in on a photo when there's really low light, or in vintage photos that are actually taken on film. Basically, to dumb it down, it's because of little crystals that reflect light depending on the ISO of your film stock, and it kind of makes that little grain of sand effect, right, on your photos. So it's kind of like an aesthetic thing, and it also makes your photos sharper in a way that they don't look sharper. It's kind of bizarre. It's kind of like an illusion in some way. It gives photos sharpness, but not in like super crisp way, you know? It's more of like sharpness overall. I don't know, it's hard to explain it. But anyways, that's what grain is, really. We're setting up the murder scene here. But how did this start? Why did we go from all these perfectly professional, I guess, perfection looking photos into more of the film thing nowadays? Well, I think there's a couple of factors to it, right? Because first of all, when digital cameras started coming out, they started becoming better overall, right? And so you had higher resolution, which meant that you didn't have as much grain from noise or from darkness and shadows or super exposed highlights. So everything looked a little better. You also had noise reduction software, which pretty much deleted all of the grain and noise in your photos, which obviously took away kind of that charisma that the photos had. And then we also have the issue of these overall edited aesthetics that happened for a while. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in like the Tumblr days, like maybe like 2 years, 3 years it went into Instagram coming out, like 2015, 2016. Everybody had perfect skin. And I mean, it made a lot of us uncomfortable because I was like, damn, my skin doesn't look like that. But it was all editing, you know? It was all an aesthetic that was a trend, and it was part of that time in place back in the day, you know? It was just one of those things we all kind of were aiming for. It's a trend, you know? It's like wearing baggy jeans nowadays, or wearing, you know, a cool cropped hoodie, you know, that kind of thing. It's just a trend. But fast forward to today, people are actually adding artificial noise to their photos to make them look like vintage photos or film photos. And it's kind of bizarre how that switch kind of happened, but I think there's a lot of reasons for it. One of the reasons being that grain just makes an image feel, well, real. Grain connects to imperfection, authenticity, and emotion. It's kind of like just an inherited thing, kind of like how we prefer a blue color over a red color when we want to feel safe, or in a movie, how a red color describes darkness or maybe something bad going going to happen versus blue meaning a safe heaven, you know? It's kind of an illusion that the mind makes because we kind of nostalgically place film as something that happened back in the day, and therefore it feels moodier, it feels old, and it feels like it has some sort of authenticity to it, right? When you have film grain, it feels like a real moment. It feels like a candid, it feels like a moment that just happened. It wasn't prepared on like the clean aesthetic where everything feels like it was very pampered, very perfectly kind of worked around in order to get the perfect photos. We're doing a little cantaloupe action now. What's the vibe we're going for here? Angas.
Exactly. I don't know. Like,
It'll look
shopping
artsy.
for fruits, smelling them.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells so good.
In the Renaissance era. Yeah. Another huge thing with this perfectionist touch is that AI does it a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm sure you have, but a lot of pages that create AI portraits have this really uncanny valley that portraits back in 2016 to 2018 had, right? Everybody's skin is so perfect, the bokeh is perfect, you know, talking about, I feel like that's what AI tries to emulate, is that unauthentic thing. And that's why I also think that we don't fall for AI as photographers and people just in the industry. I feel like it's harder for us to fall for AI than it is for a regular person that maybe doesn't have experience with portraits or editing or anything like that. But that's besides the point. I can kind of juggle these. Also, she's allergic to cantaloupe, by the way. So now, okay, Juan, you're kind of getting boring. Tell me about how I can use a grain to like better my photos. Well, grain is very interesting. There's ways you can use it for your photos to enhance them, and I use it a lot. So for example, you shouldn't overuse grain. Grain is supposed to be a subtle thing, something that if you know kind of thing. So you don't want to go too crazy and make your photo look like it was crunched and destroyed in an editing software, because there's also that fine line, you know? So in these portraits, for example, I use maybe in Lightroom, I add maybe 12 to 13% in the grain just to add a little something to it, you know? So now when it comes to grain, there's two kinds. There's kind of the finer grain and then a rougher grain. So basically you need to match the grain to the type of photo you're doing. For example, if you think about it in a really weird way, when you think of Batman and you think of Batman in the darkness, he's like in the dark, it's moody, you know, super rough grain is probably better for that because you have more of a grungy kind of look. Whereas when you're doing maybe fine art, editorial, that type of stuff, a finer grain is probably better because everything just feels a little more delicate. So it also has the vintage vibe, but it's a little bit more delicate in a way. Another tip is to not add your grain in post. It's actually to bump up that ISO on your camera and try to get it all in camera. That ISO that comes from the actual sensors on your camera is a lot better than the type you can add in Photoshop or Lightroom because it's natural. It's what was actually there. It's information that was in there. So it doesn't feel fake, you know? So that's another huge thing. When too much grain fails, you have to acknowledge when you're doing too much, right? A little bit of grain is nice, it's tasteful, it's artsy, and it's pretty balanced, you know? There's not a lot that you're missing there when you're just adding a little bit of grain. However, the second you overdo it, it's done. It becomes gimmicky, it becomes kind of like a joke, it kind of looks like you don't know what you're doing when you overdo it. So try to always keep that in mind. If you can notice your grain from a regular crop on your computer, it's probably not a good sign. You want to be able to zoom in a little bit and then be like, okay, I kind of see the grain here. But it also depends, you know, there are times when you really want to get moody for a certain thing, and that's fine, pump it up. But for regular portraits, you want to keep it simple, you want to keep it fine, and you want to keep it sexy. So overall, grain is not about making things old, it's about making them feel real. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Shout out to Serenity. Here's her Instagram right here, so you guys can follow her. She was amazing today. And next time I see you, I'm going to scarf down 75 burritos and 65 pounds of mayonnaise, all in under 1 hour for the great price of a t-shirt from a restaurant. So I'll see you next week.